Good day to all the Aviapreneurs who joined us today in a new episode of AVIAPRENEURS podcast. This is Adnan Baranbo, and my topic for today with my guest is carbon offsetting in business aviation. And my guest to discuss this topic is Miss Puja Mahajan. Good morning, Puja. Thank you for joining me today.
Good morning, Adnan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So Puja is an aviapreneur from Canada. She is the founder and CEO of Azzera, which is a Canadian startup, a marketplace assisting the business aviation in the brokerage, sale, and the trading solution of carbon offset and aviation sustainable aviation fuel. Puja is a graduate in aerospace and environmental engineering from McGill University in Canada. Later on, she has a long years of experience in the corporate and commercial aviation industry. She worked for more than 25 years in this industry, starting her career working for 5 years for Pratt & Whitney, and then she worked for more than 12 years for Bombardier Aerospace. She was in charge as director of flight operation for Bombardier. Then she was chief operating officer and chief executive officer of Elitavia, and later she was in charge as executive vice president of business development for Comlux, and she started Azzera last year in 2021. Puja, what an impressive career and experience you have. I'm very honored and pleased to talk to a woman aviapreneur who could do all that and who can be in charge of all these senior positions in the commercial and the business aviation industry.
Thank you, Adnan. That's so kind. You should introduce me always.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to the topic of the episode, which is carbon offsetting in business aviation. So we all know that global warming and climate change are one of the most pressing issues facing the humanity in the time being. And the aviation industry is particularly interested and involved in these issues, and actually the aviation industry is one of the industries which is mostly responsible and taking their responsibilities seriously from the legal, regulatory, and the social perspectives. So how Azzera is helping the aviation industry actually meet its responsibilities and obligations in that area?
Yeah, thanks, Adnan. I agree with you. Actually, while within the industry, we sort of recognize the impact overall to the worldwide level of carbon emissions is relatively small in aviation, and in business aviation, even smaller. The industry itself.
In the media, it's the most.
That's correct. That's correct. In the media, there is a tremendous amount of public pressure, but irrespective of the public pressure, especially lately, business aviation since 2009 has started talking about sustainability and how we can improve, because it's well recognized. You know, if you take a flight from A to Z, an aircraft is going to emit greenhouse gases, and these are unavoidable emissions. So there was a lot that could be done, and aviation has always been sort of a leader in innovation. And so since 2009, the industry has started making commitments to becoming net zero. And in line with the Paris Accord, the business aviation community has made commitments to be net zero by 2050. And in those commitments, there is a series of recommendations of how we can achieve that. And so each of and this is with IBAC that has made this commitment. And so each of the regulatory sectors, EBAA, sort of EU, FAA, et cetera, in the world, has started to put guidance in place. And in those guidance, there's 4 pillars. The first one being fleet modernization, so modernization of aircraft, which the OEMs are actively, constantly pursuing, improved aerodynamics, improved fuel efficiency, looking at electric engines, hydrogen-powered engines. All of this stuff is active, eVTOLs, unmanned air vehicles, drones, all of this activity is in the pursuit of lowering carbon emissions in the atmosphere through aviation. The next pillar is then optimization of the operation. How do you minimize crew positioning? How do you minimize the emissions created by the operation of flying itself? All of the activities in maintenance, in supporting the actual flights. How do you optimize that? And this is something that operators do on a day-to-day basis, because for them, optimizing costs is the number one thing. So by reducing positioning, reducing maintenance costs, you're reducing emissions and you're reducing costs. So it's a win-win for operators. The third pillar is sustainable aviation fuel, and everybody talks about it, everybody understands it. And sustainable aviation fuel is seen as the big get when it comes to reducing the emissions, decarbonizing aviation. If you use sustainable aviation fuel in an ideal world, you're massively reducing the amount of emissions generated in a flight. The unfortunate issue, and the issue today, is that today, as it stands in the current context, sustainable aviation fuel is not readily available. And it's not easily available in most regions of the world. And therefore, it's difficult to use. It's not part of a sustainability strategy in today's world. And we're talking about years from now with the evolution of methodologies of generating SAF, so that it can be high volume and available everywhere without creating emissions to actually position the fuel in different locations. We have a way to go, but work is being done on this. And then the fourth pillar, which is the pillar of concern, is carbon offsets and carbon credits. So market-based measures is what they refer to it as. And basically, this is where Azzera, my company, was born, was to address these four pillars, to help companies understand what these four pillars are, and essentially now be able to respond to the public pressure and say, we can fly carbon neutral through the use of carbon offsetting. We can explore the idea of sustainable aviation fuel when available. We are optimizing our fleet operations, and we are looking at more modern aircraft when feasible. That is expensive, of course, but that's also in the plan for many operators. So this is to be able to create a comprehensive strategy, a comprehensive answer, to use the tools that we have. And so the company that we've set up is to be this sort of support for business aviation and help them bring sustainability into their business.
So your focus is mainly business aviation and not the wider commercial aviation industry.
So our initial focus and the platform that we've created, the main platform we've created, is an online marketplace, which of course we do all the upfront support with an operator, and we allow them to then be in a position where they can directly buy carbon offsets, invest in projects, which are what carbon offsets are, directly in our marketplace, which is on our website today. No need to log in, no need to access, no KYC. You can just go, if you have a flight and you need to fly it carbon neutral, you can go and calculate your emissions and then go buy the tons of offsets that you need to be carbon neutral. Our goal is to make it effortless, to actually make it effortless to offset whatever you need to offset. However, this is a lead market. This same model can be applied to any business that can calculate their emissions. Our goal is to target transportation in general. Transportation is 40% of worldwide global emissions.
Indeed.
And the model can be applied not only to business aviation, it can be applied to cargo, shipping, yachting, commercial aviation, and so on and so forth, trains, etc. So this is something that we hope to scale. We're planning to scale. That's the vision. But our first market is business aviation, which is what we know.
So if it's a platform, there will be two sides. There will be operators on one side, and the projects which help offset carbon. So are you bringing both sides together to the market?
That's right. That's right. So the projects and the focus of Azzera has been on understanding what is a high quality project, what is actually a carbon offset, what constitutes something that we can have faith in to buy and invest in, why would we invest in this project. So we have environmental engineers on staff that are just doing this research, to understand what are the best high quality carbon offsets. We rate each project we assess. We only put onto the marketplace projects that we actually invest in. And what you buy as an offset is an offset that once you support the project with buying the offset, you're creating additionality. You're allowing the project to continue. And we really believe in this aspect. And we want to make sure that what we're promoting in terms of carbon offsets are projects that exist, that will exist in the future, that are creating an impact, that are removing or avoiding the emissions of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere.
And these projects are from all over the world, or mainly
all over the world. What is in the marketplace is a selection that we have created for all over the world. What we focus on is our market. So we are also doing offline brokerage for customers. So any operator that is interested, let's say we have an operator in Canada, which we often do. We have quite a few in Canada, and they are interested specifically in Canadian projects. So then we will go and pursue finding high quality, we'll source high quality Canadian offset projects and bring them to them. So they're not online. We may choose to put them into our marketplace afterwards. We will assess them, we will score them, we will tell them our recommendation, and we will give them a market price. We'll do the same for any part of the world. We have access to all of the carbon offsets that are registered and that have been audited.
This is a very unique and very interesting initiative. How do you see the market reaction to it? Are the operators actually responding in a positive way?
Absolutely. I haven't had a negative response yet. I think there's a bit of hesitation because carbon offsets have received some negative press because of greenwashing, companies using carbon offsets as a way of not looking at or investigating the opportunity to reduce their offsets. I think in aviation, we are in a unique position. As I said, there's not many options to decarbonize and reduce emissions. So we need to do something. And I think the important thing, and this is where we focused, is on the quality of the projects you invest in. And being able to promote that you've invested in such a project and why are the benefits of this, what are the benefits? For example, we try to focus on community benefits, co-benefits, not just the carbon reduction, but also other things that this project has created. So it's important, and I think even the businesses can wrap themselves around it as part of their branding, as part of their promotion. It's employee engagement as well. So we have had only positive response, to answer your question, and momentum has started. As public pressure increases, more and more companies are coming to us.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you gave us an introduction about the measures that can be taken to combat global warming and fight climate change. And you mentioned in the fourth pillar that the market-based measures, which is where Azzera is adding value. But at the same time, in this pillar, you are assisting the governments meet the targets of their policies. So do you see any support from the government for startups like yours and the initiative which is helping the government achieve their targets? Are they supportive?
Well, that's a good question. I think we have to go find the support. I think in general, in theory, all governments are supportive of startups that are helping with ESG or environmental sustainability and governance. We haven't gone yet to see government support, but actually we may do that in the future. There is quite a lot out there. Governments are interested more in compliance markets. We are also supporting compliance markets like EU ETS. And in the EU ETS, these are carbon approvals. They're not carbon offsets. It's a different system. But we are also able to manage operators that need support in buying approvals. So we have access to the spot market, and we can do that for operators as well. We want to help companies achieve whatever they need to achieve for sustainability, whether it's SAF, whether it's compliance credits or approvals, or it's carbon offsets. Our goal is to do that. And I think in general, the government should have no, unless we're blocking carbon tax, which we're not doing. I think what we're trying to do is support operators to avoid the introduction of a tax, because if companies take their own initiative and introduce sustainability, there's less likelihood they'll be taxed.
Indeed. Actually, self-governance is the best form of governance.
Correct.
However hard it is, it's softer than being governed from outside.
And I think it's also less of an economic impact, right?
Indeed.
I think governments will definitely, if you look at the price of EU ETS carbon, the EUAs, last year they were up to 90 euros per ton. And the average voluntary carbon offset is, let's say, 20.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. You're talking about almost 5 times.
Yeah.
So in the marketplace, I would like to ask about Azzera commercial policy. How do you make money when you connect the operators to projects?
That's right.
Do you take part as a commission or something? How does it work?
So our business model, our monetization is from the transaction fees.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, we do also, like I said, we do online and offline. So online is the marketplace. We have transaction fees. Offline, the transaction fees can be adjusted depending on volume, because we have some operators that are looking at much larger volumes than a single flight. And their flights can be, for a commercial airline, can be quite significant.
So Puja, Azzera is a very interesting name. I like how it sounds. What does it mean? How did you come up with it?
Yeah, so I actually lived in Italy. When I was working for Elite Avia, I was in Italy for about 7 years. And I became fluent in Italian. And Azzera comes from the verb azzerare. And azzera is the sort of imperative form of azzerare. Azzerare means to reset to zero.
Okay.
So azzera means reset to zero. And that's the idea. It worked very well for our company because we're trying to achieve net zero carbon neutral goals. So that's the significance of Azzera.
It's very meaningful. It means a lot, I'm sure, for everyone now, because this is actually what you're doing.
That's right. That's the idea.
So other than Azzera, do you see any other active participants in the market working and helping to solve this problem?
Yes, there's a big eco structure of sustainability companies. It's a very popular thing at the moment, right? So, I mean, specific to business aviation, there's a few companies that take some certain components like consulting and SAF brokerage, or there are a couple of exchanges on the marketplace right now that are catering to aviation in general or business in general, B2B exchanges. What Azzera is trying to do to be unique is do sort of a one-stop shop. We want to support operators from the time they decide they want to have a sustainability strategy all the way through. Help them decide what their strategy is, help them measure the emissions. Do they want to offset just a certain flight? Do they want to offset their operation? Be it an operator, an FBO, an MRO, an aircraft owner. all of these things can be looked at, and sustainability can be introduced in a certain way. So we can have those discussions with them. We want to really customize our approach, you know, with our clients, so that we can help them go from I want to do something, to actually doing something completely with Azzera. It doesn't have to go, you know, you don't have to go and do all the research. You can do it all in one shot.
Thank you very much for the detailed overview of the carbon offsetting market and what Azzera is trying to do. I'm going to move now to discussing your career, your entrepreneurial journey. Same like so many of the guests I have talked to in AVIAPRENEURS podcast over the last 40 plus episodes, I noted that most of them are successful aviation professionals who reach very high senior positions in reputable organizations and companies they worked for. Despite this, they decided to leave that positions and start something new, create a startup that helps the aviation industry become a better industry. So what motivated you actually to leave? You were a CEO of a very famous business aviation organization around the world, Elite Avia, and you worked also as EVP for Comlux. What motivated you to leave that safe, secure, prestigious positions and start Azzera?
You know, I never really had, I'll be very honest, I never had the ambition to be CEO of a company, or you know, to be a super big shot in aviation. But at the end of the day, what I realized about myself, and I think COVID really sort of sealed it because I had a lot of time to think, is that I have a vision. If I have a vision, I want to execute the vision, and I want to sort of be able to make those decisions. I love building a high quality team. I love mentoring and coaching and having young people around me. And I think those are the components. I really wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do something that would affect the younger generation, and also be able to affect change within my own control and make those decisions. And I think ultimately working for another business, you don't have that final say. And that's the honest truth, because ultimately you do have to, you know, you have to compromise and negotiate with whoever is the founder or the CEO or the head decision maker of the company, shareholders of the company. And if you're aligned, that's fantastic, but you're not always aligned. And that can be frustrating if you have your own vision of how to make things happen. I think with Azzera, we have such a wonderful opportunity. We have so many people excited. We have a fantastic team of people. It's so positive, the experience. You know, I can't imagine doing anything else now.
I wish you all the best. But at the same time,
thank you.
Yes, working for big organizations has challenges and has difficulties. But at the same time, yes, you have more freedom in startup, but you have more difficulties. And in working for other companies, you have a position, you have to do that position. Now you are a founder of a startup, you have to do everything. So how did you cope with this changing nature of your job requirements?
That is certainly the truth. I mean, there is a trade-off, right? I used to have a PA, and I used to have, you know, all my admin and travel was taken care of. I had no clue what all the paperwork was involved to set up a company. You know, I didn't think about many administrative things. I never did all of the recruitment process and hiring and etc. I just came for the interview, you know? So there were so many things in the background that I wasn't paying attention to when I was in these big corporations. And also, of course, the securities, the benefits, etc., which now I am setting up for my employees, and I am taking care of all of the admin. So there is a tremendous amount of work, and I'm not going to lie and say I do it with pleasure. I don't always do it with pleasure, but it is part of the game, and it is, I do it, let's say, with contentment that this is we're building something, and I believe in it. So we take the good with the bad.
Indeed, you are. So Puja, before we close, I'm sure the audience is interested to learn from you and to hear your advice about what it takes to start a growing, successful startup in the aviation industry. What should they do to follow your path?
That's a very difficult question. There's so many aspects to that, and I think you know that because you're quite the entrepreneur yourself. I think first of all, and with Azzera, it's to have a vision that you really in your gut you believe in. You know, there's one thing I learned, it's you have to trust your gut. I didn't always, and I learn lessons in life, but I do trust my gut. I believe in this business so much. So that gives me strength and energy to keep going. Building I think the number one thing aside from that is building a great team. You cannot do it alone. And if you have the capability to build a team and have people around you that believe in what you're doing, you can be really powerful and you can accomplish a lot. I think having the right backers, having the right partners. I have a tremendous partner in Nick Hausman, who's the co-founder of Azzera. He is a mentor, a coach, and a wonderful partner to discuss and to look forward. He's visionary. And so it's all upside for us. We're really, really positive. Always stay positive. Even with the obstacles, there's always a way.
Amazing. So having a vision, believing in your gut, having a great team, having a great supportive partner, and staying positive. What a great advice. Thank you so much, Puja.
Thank you. Thank you, Adnan.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest and all the experience you shared with us. And I wish you all the best.
Same to you, Adnan. Thank you again.
Thank you to all the aviapreneurs who joined us today. You can follow Puja Mahajan on LinkedIn. And we all look forward to seeing the progress of Azzera. And I look forward to seeing you again next week with a new aviapreneur and a new episode of Aviapreneurs podcast. Have a great day.